Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to unwrap the surprising and honestly pretty political history of a holiday icon we all think we know. And we're going right to the source. So let me ask you this. What if Santa Claus was born on a battlefield? Yeah, I know, it sounds nuts, right? But the jolly, gift-giving guy we all love today, he didn't start out in some cozy workshop at the North Pole. Nope. He was actually born on the battlefields of the American Civil War.
Okay, so how on earth did that happen? Well, our story kicks off right in the middle of one of America's darkest times.
Here it is, the exact date, January 3rd, 1863. Right here in the pages of Harper's Weekly, a brand new character shows up. And let me tell you, this was a huge moment, not just for Christmas, but for the war itself. Now, this Santa wasn't sneaking down chimneys into cozy homes. As historian Heather Cox Richardson points out, he was right there on the front lines visiting a Union Army camp, handing out packages, and trying to bring just a little bit of cheer to the soldiers.
So to really get why Santa would show up here, of all places, you have to understand what the country was feeling back in 1863. And honestly, it was grim. You see, by this point, the war had already dragged on for 2 long years. Any hope that it would be over quickly was completely gone. The Union had taken some really big hits and morale was dangerously low. People were losing faith. They desperately needed some kind of symbol, anything to rally around.
Okay, check out this number, 526,000. Now you're probably thinking, what in the world does that have to do with Santa Claus? Well, as it turns out, everything.
That massive number? That's how many German-American soldiers were fighting for the Union. We're talking about immigrants and their sons, making up about a quarter of the entire army. They were absolutely vital to the war effort, and importantly, they brought their cultural traditions with them.
And that brings us to this guy, Thomas Nast. He was a brilliant cartoonist for Harper's Weekly, and, you guessed it, a German immigrant himself. He knew this community of soldiers inside and out. So, he decided to introduce a character from his own childhood in Bavaria to his new American audience. Because, let's be clear, Nast wasn't just drawing a cute holiday character. Oh no. He was creating a powerful piece of wartime propaganda, specifically for the Union cause. I mean, just look at this guy. This Santa was 100% patriotic. Nast gave him a jacket covered in stars and pants with stripes. He was literally wearing the American flag, a symbol of the Union, right on his clothes. And if you thought that was subtle, get this. In his hand, Santa is holding a puppet of the Confederate President Jefferson Davis, and there's a rope tied tightly around its neck. Whoa. This was not about peace on earth and goodwill to men. This was a hardcore political statement about winning the war, plain and simple. But what's so fascinating is that this version of Santa didn't stick around. In less than 2 decades, this skinny, political warrior would completely transform into the jolly, grandfatherly figure we all recognize today. The change is, well, it's incredible. Just look at the difference. So how did we get from the skinny propagandist to the jolly guy with the big belly? Well, his story perfectly mirrors the story of America itself. Let's walk through it. The war ends in '65. Then the country hits some rough patches, including a big financial crash in '73. But by the 1880s, things start to turn around. A whole new era of optimism and prosperity kicks in. And boom, in 1881, Nast gives us his iconic, fat Santa. By the 1880s, America was just a different place. People weren't focused on survival anymore. They were focused on prosperity, on family, on this new idea of consumerism. There was more money, more time for things like parties and buying gifts. The country was ready for a Santa that reflected this new reality. And Thomas Nast delivered, big time. His 1881 Santa was the perfect symbol for this new age. He was fat, which back then was a clear sign of health and having enough to eat. He was beaming, full of joy, not thinking about war. And that Jefferson Davis puppet? Gone. Replaced with an armful of toys for kids. He represented the widespread prosperity that people felt the Union victory had brought. So what's the big idea here? It's actually pretty simple but profound. Santa's journey, well, it is America's journey. Think about it. These 2 Santas, drawn by the very same artist, are like bookends for one of the most transformative periods in the nation's history. We go from a country literally fighting for its own survival to a country celebrating its victory and newfound wealth.
Heather Cox Richardson puts it perfectly. She says Santa arrived as a skinny immigrant who fought for his country's survival, and then he grown fat and happy in its aftermath.
That physical transformation in the character directly mirrors the journey of the nation itself.
At the end of the day, Santa's origin story is just this powerful reminder that our most cherished traditions, they're often filled with forgotten history. The things we take for granted are almost never simple. They're shaped by conflict, by politics, and by hope.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, if the story of the Civil War is hiding inside Santa Claus, what other incredible histories are hiding in plain sight, in the traditions we celebrate every single day?